today. We go over a lot of the things that we can use in food, and a small amount of things that we can use in medicine. If there's anything you're interested in, or something that you wanted to identify for a while, or something you wanted to know how you could use it, please ask. If you feel like you know something that hasn't been said, and you think it's really interesting, and you want to share it with everybody, please bring it forward. I used to do this with this herb, and I know, whatever. And I usually have a really good time on these walks. I'm going to try to find stuff for people to put in their mouths. If anybody wants to sample it, I will try to have everybody get their hands in the dirt. If everybody wants to do some harvesting, I brought some extra bags so that we can actually take some stuff and bring it back and use it. We're going to be looking for wild carrot and poke and sheep sorrel, which is this year's main thing. But we'll grab anything really that I find that we can eat, I guess, and bring it back. Someone will end up using it. You want to do names real quick? These are all new faces over here. I haven't seen too many people eat the leaves or the roots, but I love eating the flowers. In fact, I will pick them up and nibble them from the stem all the way to the flower, sort of like a toothpick when I'm walking around and stuff. They've got a very calm flavor, sort of what you would expect from a flower. Heavily, not very sweet, kind of tingly on the tongue. But if you see common ground violets, I would encourage you to pick them and put them in a bag. Does anybody want to carry our flowers bag? Here we go, over here. All right, so I'm going to jump in real quick and grab a couple of them. We'll see them later on the walk. And we'll wash them off. So.
Is that it?
There are a couple of violet species that live in North Carolina. You can tell this is a common ground violet by the way its leaf is shaped. Sort of like a heart, kind of like a shield, sort of curly on the edges as it comes near the stem. The other ones you can tell they have much smaller leaves, or more like fingerier leaves, but I don't know really how well to identify those from the other ones. You pretty much only find the species of ground violet. So another one of our things that usually goes in the color of spring scones is right here as well, the dandelion. I'm sure everyone's seen a dandelion. It's not the most pristine one, but we'll talk about it again later. It's got this rough edge on it. It comes from the French word tooth of a lion, dente de lion, which is where it gets its American name from. It is completely edible as well, the flowers, the leaves, and the root, but it doesn't taste very good. Chock full of vitamins. A great survival food. My grandma's family used to eat it in the Depression because they were really poor. I'm not going to harvest any of the plants today. We'll be taking the flowers if we found it. Yeah, throw in our flowers bag over here with, what was your name again? Lisa, with Lisa. Mm-hmm. The root has been harvested and roasted. It turns into sort of like a coffee flavor, and you'll see it as a herbal coffee supplement. No caffeine, but like I said, chock full of vitamins. So we've done that here before. I don't think anyone's going to do it this year. But let's keep moving and see what else we can find. I'm going to go around this way. Completely poisonous. I keep using poisonous plant actually because most of the year, you can see this is a little mayapple flower that hasn't opened up down here. Most of the year, the whole plant, the root, and the fruit is poisonous. The fruit comes out of a little tiny white flower, and I think it's green for most of the year. It'll turn yellow, and right after it turns yellow, for that small amount of time, it is edible. But the squirrels and the deer know what it smells like, and they're going to come get it before you have a chance to. So people will tell you that you can eat it, but you really, most of the time you can't. 99% of the year you can't. So it's a really pretty one. I think it only grows in healthy places, which is why you'll see it growing here. The older ones will fork, like this one will, and they'll flower in the middle. So you can sort of tell the number of petals and the number of forks you see how healthy and how old the mayapple, plants are. I'm not sure if all these plants are related, but they do tend to grow together. I'm not sure if it's all one plant, if there are a bunch of rhizomes down here below the ground. But
is just the fruit toxic or the whole plant?
The whole plant's toxic.
The whole plant.
The fruit's the only edible part.
Yeah,
and you'll know it's ripe. It'll release this very slight lemon fragrance. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It'll come out. It'll start as green. It gets about this large, and then when it's ripe, it'll be yellow with a lemon fragrance, and you'll be fighting all the wildlife for it.
That's how you know when it's ready. Is when
right.
all the animals
and that's
when it's been eaten
in the patches.
early June.
I don't know. I never look for the fruit. You know, it's
I
there
always
and then
miss
it's
it.
gone.
I always come right before it's ready or right after.
Yeah.
It's hard to find it.
Is this a fruit right here?
Underneath the plant, do they come up above the plant when they bloom, or they bloom completely underneath?
Well, you can see
all these buds.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. They come completely underneath. So.
These ones aren't old enough to fork, but this one's forking right there. There's a little flower. They haven't opened up yet. This year, I think everything's really early this year.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's not early. Anybody recognize this one? Circle leaves. Take a look. It's got little tiny spines on it. Anybody recognize this one?
Isn't it like chickweed?
It is not chickweed, but it will grow right next to chickweed. This one's called cleavers. The guy who invented Velcro invented it after looking at this plant. If you look really, really close, it's covered in little tiny hooks. And its seeds will also be covered in little tiny hooks. It will stick to clothing very easily.
Wow.
Which is one of the reasons I think it's called cleavers. But you can eat it. It's not very palatable because of the little hooks. If you cook it, it tends to go down better. So we don't tend to cook with it much here, but it's good to know that you can eat it, and it grows everywhere. Like you said, it grows right next to chickweed. So if we find a good patch of chickweed, I want to teach that one too. But yeah, so this is cleavers. I'm put it right here. If anybody's got any questions about it, it'll be right here for later.
I'll remember that.
An endangered plant down here called bloodroot. Oops. Oh no. I think I lost it.
Oh, you want the root of it?
Yeah.
That would make sense since it's called bloodroot.
Bloodroot is called bloodroot because it's got this stuff in it called sanguinine, and it's red.
That looked like the root, but it certainly wasn't the right color.
No, it's not the right color at all.
Is it ginger?
I don't think
No,
so.
because the bloodroot's...
Bloodroot's got a very interesting leaf. As it gets older, it starts to miss more and more of these. You can see the other one down here. It miss more and more of these front pieces of the leaf. And that's how you can tell what it is.
It'll bloom with a white daisy-like flower in the spring.
These all look like Solomon seals, but they're not either.
Well, there's some right next to
it. It is
it.
endangered, and we tend not to harvest it. I also don't think it's edible. I think sanguinine is like bad for you.
Medicinal.
I think you can use it in smaller amounts. Yeah, now this is like a Solomon seal or something. I don't know what that is. But we tend not to harvest it very much. Oh, here's a bunch of it down here. You see these guys? The little leaves and everything. Very pretty plant though. Very small root. Here's another one we can teach down here. The fiddlehead fern. I believe this is a Christmas tree fern, but if you can find the fiddleheads when they're this small, you can cook them and eat them. If they get any bigger than this, the fibers in them get really tough, and they're not very palatable, and they'll gum you up in the intestinal area. But you can feel, if you want to pass that around, it's still kind of tender. We're not going to take this one and eat it today, but I just wanted everybody to see what they look like. This one's called a Christmas tree fern because it kind of looks like a Christmas tree. Ooh, ah. And then if you pick off one of these little leaves right here, so all the fern's leaves look different. It looks like a stocking. It also looks like a sled. Right? So, Christmas tree fern. Yeah. If you guys want to take a look. Let's see. But these grow in North Carolina. I think it's a little bit too late for them. But something to look out for.
There's a bunch of them up here, John, that are just now breaking the surface.
Oh, yeah? Maybe we should take some then.
Yeah, I saw them when we were talking to them yesterday.
Do you want to hold some ferns? Right? Christmas tree ferns. Adult ones.
Well, if we can find any, I got another bag. Why don't we take one?
Where they at? Oh, that's kind of cool.
The very, very smallest ones. Anything over 3 inches is probably too big.
That's the Christmas tree fern. You want the hairy looking ones.
The smaller the better.
We have wild grape wine this year. These leaves are probably about half of the size of their full adult leaf. I think you can eat the grape leaves, can't you? Especially when they're this tender.
Yeah, you can.
But people tend to not to do that.
They'll wrap them and stuff them like a traditional grape leaf.
Yeah, they're so good.
But they'll be grown all over the place. You know, they have edible fruit that comes out late July, depending on what part of North Carolina you are, how cold it is. But that's the wild grape.
And that's muscadine, right?
I think so. But they come back every year. We'll see if we can find a bigger one than these ones. But you want to take a look at that?
The big ones are important plants for survival. If you're in the woods and you can't find a source of water, but you can find wild grape, you can cut the base of the vine and they're just full of water and it'll start to pour water out of the vine.
I've seen somebody do that before. It's really impressive how much water you can get out of a wild grapevine. You've probably seen them.
Big hardy plants.
And they grow really thick too. You'll find them growing like 2 inches, 1.5 inches around. Maybe we could find one of those, but I don't know. We'll see. I didn't save mine, even though I said I was going to.
Oh, Kelsey.
No, it's cool. Kelsey's got it. Okay. Well, I'll put this in your hand. This is a sweet gum. You can tell it's got these gumballs all over it. Everyone stepped on one of those in the barefoot, I'm sure. But you can take a good look at this leaf and tell that it's a very different shape than the maple leaf. This one's got all 5 points taper to the edge, pretty much without blocking off at all. There you go, Isabel. See, this one squares out at the middle point, especially, and also at the other 2 side points.
Okay.
The maple leaf right there, sort of for comparison's sake. Sweet gums, I don't know if you can get the sap out of them. I really don't know if you can use them for anything besides the gumballs. But that's just a fun plant to learn how to identify. People will ask you, oh, is this a sweet gum? Is this a maple? And sometimes it's really hard to figure it out. So I encourage you to keep your eyes open and question, is this a maple or is this a sweet gum? Yeah, is this a sweet gum?
White cloves,
It's a
right?
white clover. Great for making little tiny necklaces out of. I like to do that. It is the less potent of the clovers. Red clover is a more powerful blood purifier, but you can definitely eat this one. The white clover is less tasty as well than the red clover, but the way you would eat the flower is you would pull out these little tiny inflorescences just straight from the flower and just eat them, or do it with your mouth. Like, anybody want to try out clover? Yeah, go ahead.
Is it bitter?
No, it should taste sweet. These ones actually just taste like petal, but the red clover will have enough.
This
have
one's
enough
got the
nectar in it.
flavor. It's you can taste it like you taste in the honey.
Mmm.
Yeah, it's full of a couple little florets off.
Bees got that sweet tooth.
They do though.
Lisa? That's the first in the flower bag.
And it's that flavor that gets concentrated down into the honey.
Mm.
You see how it's got a little bit of pink in it? Mm-hmm. The white clover and the red clover can hybridize pretty easily. So you'll find what looks like pink clover, and you'll say to yourself, is this a new species? Not really. It's just a cross between the red and the white. One of my favorite plants, mullein. Hopefully we'll find a better one. Mullein is the wild lamb's ear.
Lamb's ear, yeah. Okay.
Unlike lamb's ear, which is a perennial, wild mullein is a biennial, and it comes up in 2-year cycles. The first year cycle is a vegetative state, just with the leaves, very small plant. The second year it comes back much larger, and it puts out this spire-type flower with yellow flowers all around it. They sort of bloom in a top-down fashion.
You see it like in August.
Yeah, you see it on the sides of the roads a lot when it's time to road trip back from the beach.
Wild onion. Now, can't you eat it? You can. Oh, is that garlic?
It's used for wet lung ailments. They would use it to treat tuberculosis.
I don't remember how to tell the
It's
difference.
called King's Torch back in the day because it had that yellow fire flower that was used for tuberculosis.
Oh yes.
It's also been called Quaker's Root, even though it feels soft. It actually got some
and if you
on it
pull
that are-
them, if you don't get
that are
these
abrasive
little
to the face.
cloves, it'll keep
So
coming
of
back
course,
year
Quakers
after year.
can't wear makeup, and they would
Yeah, I've
use
got
this leaf
so
to
much
rub it on
of
their
it.
cheeks to rose their cheeks up a little bit when they're going out. So I don't know. I love this plant. It grows around. You can dry it and put it in a smoke mix and use it for like asthma exacerbations and stuff like that. But I really love it. one thing about harvesting mullein, you'll see it growing on the sides of the highway. If you're going to harvest it, don't harvest it from the sides of the highway where all that exhaust and heavy metals and gunk has been thrown onto it. Find a nice place like this to go out and get your mullein. So, unfortunately, it's been chopped a little bit. Shannon was over here digging up some wild garlics for us, actually. There's a wild garlic and there's a wild onion, and it's hard for me to identify them from each other. One has a stem that's thick all the way through, one has a hollow stem. And they both pretty much have the same properties as far as taste go. But you can strip off this outside layer and just eat it raw if you wanted to.
It's really strong.
It's very, very strong. When you cook it, it cooks the flavor down a little bit. I mean, I eat this stuff. I put it in my food.
It's like the green's like a scallion.
Yeah. Actually, we're going to take some home today, actually, and we're going to make wild garlic butter out of it to put on our acorn bread.
You mash it, the bulb?
Yeah, you take the bulb, you clean it, you slice it thin, like the garlic, smash it if you want, and then just saute some butter for just a couple of minutes, and then pull it off, cool it down, and put it right on your butter, or right on your bread. It's a really great thing to get people interested in. I like to teach this plant to my friends because we can go out to my front yard, get it, bring it into my kitchen, and make it into something and be like, oh wow, I didn't know you could eat this stuff. So we're definitely going to save this, and it's going to come back later today.
Can't you eat the green stuff?
Oh yeah.
This one's not terribly spicy, but at the end there's a bite.
So one other thing I like to teach you about this one is did you know that the onion is not actually a root? The onion is a compressed stem, and the roots come out of the bottom. So if anybody ever asks you to go grab them a root vegetable, come back with a carrot, because an onion is not a root vegetable. So who wants to be our onion person?
Can't you, I thought it was garlic.
Courtney.
Well,
we're not sure.
Look at my book.
Yeah, so one of them
You
grows
can eat the
solitary.
stems, right?
One of them grows solitary, and the other one grows in clumps. One of them grows with a hollow stem, the other one grows with a...
That's a good bag, though.
Oh, sorry about that. Here, try this. Try this.
You fell for the trap.
Yeah. I was seeing if you're paying
April
attention.
Fool's bag.
April Fool's bag. Let's see if we can find anything else while we're here, because there seems to be a nice little treasure trove. Okay, here's a very interesting one. Anybody can identify this tree? We just identified it a second ago.
Right in the that's the
Fifth time.
tulip popper?
Can anyone tell me which tree this is? Is it a maple or is it a sweet gum?
That's a sweet gum, ain't it?
It's a sweet gum. And it's really confusing because remember how I told you the sweet gum doesn't taper or doesn't have those points? This one does, and it's looking very mapley right now. Definitely a sweet gum though, so this is one for you to learn. This one, if you look straight up, is interesting. This is a winged sweet gum. I don't know why they get the wings on them like that, but they do. So, winged sweet gum.
Like the bark kind of gets...
Yeah, it gets flat. And you'll see this with elms, winged elm.
I thought it was a virus. I really thought it was a virus.
Oh, yeah.
They grow like that, huh? But they...
Definitely eat it. I thought they went out of business. I think the difference between the blackberry and the raspberry is that the raspberry has like a sheen on it. But just to point it out, different than the rose we just looked at. Very similar leaves, but they don't have that tearing down the stem like Shannon was talking about.
Wild blackberry. Very thorny.
Just put it under your chin.
Buttercup, huh?
Good plant. You pass that around. Over here.
Jewelry.
You can see like the water before on it.
They all, yeah. If you pour water on them, it just kind of...
This one already has water on it, and you can see why it's called jewelweed. Because the water beads up on the surface of the leaf and sparkles. And that's something, it'll always roll off the plant. And it's just something about the surface tension on the leaf.
I think that's why it's good for poison ivy, because the oil rolls right off of
What's
it.
good for poison ivy about jewelweed is it breaks down the surface oils on your skin, whatever's in the jewelweed. And the way you get it out is you take the stem and you can crush it in a mortar and pestle or just in the field between your palms with a little bit of water.
Yeah,
and it gets really, really gooey. And you can crush it up and put it right on the poison ivy. You can use it prophylactically, which means before you get exposed, or you can use it as a treatment for a poison ivy outbreak, either after you've been touched and you're trying to wash it off, or after it's erupted and you're trying to keep it from spreading. But jewelweed's a really good one.
You feel it in the stem, it's slimy.
Has anyone ever grown impatiens before?
Oh, yeah.
Jewelweed's in the impatient family. And if you're familiar with the impatiens, you can look at the jewelweed plant and be like, this is a very similar vascular plant. It's like sort of puffy with these leaves on it.
The flower is similar too. It gets a small orange flower with a deep throat.
Yeah.
And the petals, the large part of the petals aren't as big as on an impatiens. But if you look at the central part, it's very similar. An impatiens leaves will do that same beating, and they have a very similar leaf shape. Jewelweed grows real tall, though.
I've heard back and forth reports on whether it's edible or not. Some people say eat it. Some people say, I've never heard of anybody eating it.
I've generally heard of not eating it.
So,
definitely lots of topical use.
It's not one that we take here. Someone asked me to point this out earlier. We'll probably take it. This is chickweed. It's gone on a pretty good run, actually. This is pretty tall chickweed. Take some, pass it around. Chickweed is totally edible. I'd encourage everyone to take a leaf and just nibble on it. No significant flavor.
Black too, to the ground.
It can be. This one is actually just about to go to seed. You can see it's got its flowers gearing up over here, and it has a very small white flower. And that flower will stay about the same size regardless of what the plant is. So you'll see those really flat ones that'll be growing. Like if you mow chickweed, it will grow smaller. If you let a chickweed grow, it'll grow bigger, like this one. But it's got a very nice stem. I mean, everything in this plant is edible. Very not fibrous, so great for wild salads. Actually, I would say this is probably 50% of my wild salad. But we'll take that one because they're not very common. That one's very healthy. We'll wash it up and doctor it up and take it home. Anybody else want to nibble or grab one of those? Grab a leaf right off of there and just put it in your mouth. Tastes great.
It's bitter.
It's planty.
Yeah, it is planty. It really is bitter.
There are more bitter things. What'd you find, Shannon? So,
I saw a long leaf plantain a minute ago.
Yeah, we'll go over that. Looks like it's down
Got the
there.
garlic.
I do. She's cleaning it.
But jewelweed's a
Well,
good
we
one.
can
I
scrub
wish we
it
could see more jewelweed.
better
She's
back
just,
before we cook it.
Jewelweed
Stripping
really
the
loves
dirty
Stripping them.
stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
Let's keep moving. We're almost where I.
Yeah, that stuff's in there.
This is kudzu.
Yeah, that's
It's
why
also got 3 leaves, so picking out which one's poison ivy is going to be really hard. It takes some years of practice. You can tell this is not poison ivy, 1, because it's furry, and 2, because this middle leaf is a little bit farther away from its other leaves. As the kudzu gets bigger, it will have more differentiated leaves, sort of looking more like a hand with like thumbs on either side. It grows from a central taproot, so this is probably this one's taproot. You can extract the starch from here and eat it. I don't know how to, so I don't usually do it.
Kind of an involved process.
Kind of
Yeah, you have to kind of.
But you can get a really great kudzu flower from especially the larger plants. The kudzu is what you see growing on the side of the road, taking over absolutely everything.
Yeah, a lot of
And
people
you
fry
can
the
extract
leaves.
a whole bunch of starch from the
I think
roots. You can
look
also
down in here.
fry the young leaves
See how
like
these
that,
ones
and you can
are
eat them
like
like a chip.
grainy?
You know, maybe dip them in some
So like
tempura
little
batter
grains
and
and
fry
also
them
little
up real
fibers.
quick.
There's
They're
little hairs in
delicious.
there, little chunks.
You know, you
Those
gotta
little
get
chunks
them
are the
when they're
starches,
young
and
so
that's
that
you
it's
have to
not
somehow
so
figure
hairy
out the way to get the starch away from the
Yeah.
fiber,
But,
so you can eat it.
Which part do they make jelly out of?
I think the bottom part.
The root?
Yeah, although I don't know what they would jelly because it doesn't have very much of a
do
like.
they use the flour
You
at
can
all?
see it. See how look. You can
purple.
almost see the starches coming off of the fibers in there.
I'm not real familiar with the flour. It doesn't have a very prominent flour.
Oh man, you're gonna eat it. Typically, you cook it.
That's the starch.
It's rough.
Mm-hmm.
So you can take kudzu young leaves. I will take these young leaves home with us and dip them in batter and fry them, and they come out tasting like potato chips. Actually, really delicious. So if we find any more baby,
There you go. Give it a try.
does anybody else have a bag? I think I might have some more bags.
You just need to put it in there with this one.
Oh yeah, okay. We'll be able to figure out which one's which. Thank you. All right. Milkweed grows back like asparagus every year off of its root, and it tends to end up looking like. There's one. Casey, do you have? Oh, here we go. It tends to look like this. Pokeweed is its common name. Its real southern name is poke salat, not to be confused with poke salad. Salat being an old southern word for an herb that must be cooked before it's eaten. Pokeweed in its raw state is poisonous. Actually, we have to boil it twice in water before you can eat it. And also peel it. You can see that down here near the base of the plant, it's a very thin membrane that's pink. The pink membrane. That pink membrane is full of poison. Full of poison. So we'll peel it off and then we'll boil the stems twice. But like asparagus, they come back every year. So you can cut them down and they'll grow back. Great survival food. You don't want to eat it once it gets past 18 inches because the poisons are too high. And you won't be able to boil them out.
Do they have berries?
They do have berries. The berries are also poisonous. Kids will sometimes get into them and puke a lot. But I think it's like the seeds are poisonous, but the berries aren't. Don't eat it. Don't eat the pokeberries. If it's old enough to berry, you shouldn't be anywhere close to the pokeweed.
Just boil it and eat it like green?
Yeah. Boil it, pour the water off, and do whatever you want with it. So I'm going to take the poke stem, which is kind of like a broccoli or asparagus stem. I'm going to chop it up and I'm going to put it in fritters with some corn. I'm going to take the poke leaves. I'm going to boil those twice, chop them up, saute them, and I'm going to put them in like a creamy sheep sorrel. If we can find any sheep sorrel, it's going to be creamy pokeweed empanadas. So like it's going to be with a cream cheese and fried in like a little pie crusty thing. Hopefully very tasty. So
we actually grow it.
You grow the pokeweed? Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we've got it in a 4x4, one of those plastic set up for a garden, and we've taken some of the berries off of matures and just took it out and just laid it in that. Didn't bury it or anything, just left it there. And the next season it's come back up, and now we've got that whole 4x4 is now covered in poke.
Do you guys harvest it?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Oh yeah.
Oh, let's go over here. Actually, there's a lot of really good examples of the poke.
It's a deciduous conifer, and I think these leaves fold up some at night, similar to a mimosa, but not terribly so. And so it'll turn kind of a rusty auburn color in the fall and drop all these little needles, and then they come out fresh again in the spring. These guys get huge. You know, you'll see these like 80 feet tall eventually.
What's it called?
Dawn redwood.
Very cool.
Not really any.
It's like a bean.
That is not edible. It's really not anything except for a legume. Being a legume, it has nitrogen-fixing properties. It's evolved to have a symbiotic relationship with a bacterium, or several species of bacterium actually, and it will call them to its roots, and the bacterium will fix nitrogen into a usable plant form, and it will actually give back the soil quality. So if you have a place that's been recently disturbed, and you want a natural ground cover, that's just not a bad choice. It's an American plant. It won't outcompete other plants, and it actually will add nitrogen back into your soil. So it's also got a very pretty purple flower on it, very much like a sweet pea, because it's in the pea family. But this is vetch. It comes in a hairy vetch. Apparently that's got more medicinal properties. I've never seen it. It mostly all looks like this, but it grows all over the place. It's one I really very much care for, but I don't ever use it for anything. So hey, there's that. I'll point it out again if I find it again.
What part of the country does it grow in?
I've always seen it growing around here, but I would assume it would grow everywhere, like from here to California. I don't see why not.
Are these crazy?
It looks a lot like poison ivy. This is box elder. Box elder looks just like poison ivy, except for it grows on a tree. Confusing, because poison ivy will grow up trees, and it will grow up box elders, but this is actually box elder. All of this is box elder, and it looks just like poison ivy. So it's a good one to learn. You can see it's clearly coming off of a tree, but it is not going to give you welts or itching or anything like that. So if you wanted to trick somebody into being afraid of you, you could run up to them like, poison ivy, and they might not get it.
Here, I'll take that one.
So it's actually
I think I've
type of
got this
maple,
for
isn't it?
one at home.
Is
I'll
it?
let it go
Yeah,
and see what it
Ooh.
was.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it.
I did not know that. I could totally see that though. By lawnmower.
I think it's probably a combination of both, because you can see at the end, like the base of the plant here is smaller, but the longer parts have those larger leaves with the flowers. That's sickly, unhealthy chickweed.
Okay.
But it's important to know sickly unhealthy chickweed in case you're starving, and all you can find is sickly unhealthy chickweed.
Actually, that one's not the chickweed. That's the one with the
Yeah.
little blue flowers.
It's mixed up.
See, this has hairy little leaves. Chickweed is going to have round, smooth, oblong leaves. This has a different leaf leaf structure. It's got the little lobes on it.
And they
Remember those tiny blue flowers? This is them after they flowered, and they're producing seeds here.
but the chickweed always has double leaves opposite each other.
It's all, yeah, it's got opposite leaves that are oblong with a little point. And they grow in rosette type of clumps like this.
Yeah, there.
You might stay close to this milk.
All right, so remember how I said we dig one up and we found it? We found a daylily. They love growing in the woods. If they don't get enough sun, they won't flower.
This is the flower.
Yeah,
That's why I
I've
did
got
it.
them in my
Everyone's
yard.
seen these.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the tubers.
Which one's the flower, Shannon?
The orange in the top corner there.
Oh, okay.
See, this is the root. See how there's like tubery almost? You can eat those if you have enough time, but I really like to eat this part right above the root, this white part down here, and I would be happy to share some with you guys. But that part right there, full of sugar, very low in fiber, you can totally eat it. You have a clean knife, so long.
You might have been opening packages.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you might just want to.
I'm gonna do this. Can I get a volunteer's hand open?
Just a holder.
The volunteer was thinking, what direction is he going to face with that knife?
There you go. Everybody who wants one, I'll dig another one up.
Definitely want one. It's foods.
I'd go for the white one, probably.
Mmm.
If you want to hang on to the tubers, we'll take them back.
Yeah, why not? Right? Why not? Okay.
If you dug them. The veggie group might want them.
Anybody else want to taste it? Didn't get a taste before?
That was really good, actually.
Is there a time of year that they're best?
I like to take all my plants in early spring because I believe that they're more tender. But no. I would assume that after they have the flowers on them, they're probably a bit more fibrous. But not that I have noticed. I'm actually going to grab a couple of these. We should take them home with us.
Yeah.
And so you said the Asian roots are different looking than
Yes, the Asian ones look like a daffodil bulb.
like one big bulb?
And you're much more likely to find those in a garden because they're
Box
not a native and they don't escape very
We hope.
readily. They're really for ornamental. You see them at
Did
the
it come off
garden
of a
centers
tree?
right now.
No.
We're fine.
You know, like an Easter lily. Very similar type of rose.
It didn't have hairy things on it, did it?
Yeah, those have the big white
Tastes like
Watermelon.
purple.
my grape training.
That's really cool, actually.
Wow, that's so impressive. I'm glad we did that. It's been a while since I could open a grape.
I know. I don't know that I've ever done it with a tendril like this before.
So how long does it keep coming?
We could wait and see.
We'll see. I'm not going to sit here and hold it that long.
Yeah, back up a little bit. She's going to...
It's going to let go.
So
Creasy greens, creasy cress. Its leaf usually looks like this. It's
Oh,
a
yeah.
relative of the
I've seen
arugula.
that.
It's got a very nutty, spicy flavor to it.
Huh? How do you know it's going to seed?
It's in the mustard family.
Yeah.
And these are mustard seed pods right here. You can see them. The seeds are all stacked up in there.
Yeah.
And when they get ripe, it'll break open and it'll shoot the seeds all over the place. So if I find the ripe one, I'll show it to you later. But I really like the taste of this. I'm going to put it in my wild.
All right. I've noticed that ginger grows in pairs. Like if the leaves are, you get two of the leaves. Wow, that stuff's hidden up there, isn't it?
Uh-huh. But it just looked out of place.
Yeah, for anybody who wants to venture up there. This is one of the 2 wild gingers that grows in North Carolina.
You didn't get
I
the
don't think
root?
you can use it for ginger. I don't think it's even related to ginger at all. But that's what they call
That's what
it.
they call it, yeah.
I've never seen anybody eat it, actually. But it does have these jug-like flowers that grow right next to the ground. Most people miss them because they're under the leaves most of the time. But there's the wild ginger, and it's jug-like flowers. This is a tactile course. I like people to touch my plants.
It's very pretty.
So you can't eat it, or you don't know?
I don't think people eat it.
It's got some geometry.
Woody.
Maybe not.
I think it's flat on the
Seed
back.
pod.
I really like eating this one. This is what they normally look like. Have you ever had arugula before? You know what arugula is? It's like a
It's
like a lettuce.
I haven't had luck growing it.
It's hit or miss with lettuce, I guess. This one's going to seed though. It's in the mustard family. You can tell it's got these these are very mustard family seeds right here. This is a seed pod, and all the seeds are stacked on top of each other in there. And when it gets ripe, it'll dry out and it'll break open, and all the seeds will fall out. But I'm gonna put this in my food this afternoon for sure. This is creasy greens. It's gone to seed. Creasy greens, creasy cress. It's in the mustard family. It's gonna have very nutty, mustardy flavor.
You don't take all these little.
Nah, actually, if I could find one that wasn't flowering, I would have taken it instead. But I just found this one a second ago. So yeah, this one grows in your front lawn and whatnot. If you want to take a nibble of one of the leaves, it's got a very nutty flavor. There you go, right there.
It looks like he's got a colt following him.
Okay.